Hello, I'm Kira Fullington.
And I'm Ryan Martinovich. Welcome to a special edition of Middle Tennessee News Off the Beaten Path, England and Scotland.
Today we're in the great city of Edinburgh with some hidden gems for the adventurous traveler.
We'll take you along the vibrant UK capitals, London and Edinburgh, and we'll find some stops along the way and in between, just like behind us, the Edinburgh Castle.
These are the people, places, and experiences that make traveling more meaningful, exciting, and unforgettable. And there's even some with a Tennessee twist.
In London, tourists love to take photos in front of the old red phone booths, but not many people know about the booths of a different color, unless you're a Doctor Who fan. MTN reporter Marley Hughes takes us behind the story with the boxes of blue.
Earls Court, a very busy, beautiful neighborhood in London, but that wasn't always the case. 30 years ago, crime was at a much higher rate. And it took one metropolitan police officer in London to make a call to help keep a watchful eye on the neighborhood. It looks like a special phone box, not unlike those you see throughout London, but this one is the only of its kind in the city. This particular box assists police with surveillance over the neighborhood and allows police officers in London to call for assistance. But police aren't the only ones to use this special box. Some might even recognize it.
Where are we, Professor, anyway?
A planet, an Earth colony.
A staple of British television since its debut in 1963, Doctor Who involves an alien scientist traveling through space and time using a police box, or as the Doctor calls it, the TARDIS.
He gets in it and he travels around the universe looking for monsters and different people, different walks of life.
Something very nasty is happening here, and we've got to put a stop to it.
In his travels, the Doctor helps to clean the universe from all sorts of evil, a sentiment echoed in Earls Court.
There's always been crime in London, but I think it's died down a bit.
And it's not just a crime being cleaned either,
Professor, look what they've done!
Yes, it looks rather good.
as the entirety of Earls Court is getting a fresh coat of paint.
There's a lot of construction going on in London. There's always cranes about, there's always construction going on, new buildings.
Come on, old girl, just don't let me down now. Don't let me down.
Just as the Doctor prescribed.
You're always going to get them rough areas, but it's much more improved than it was.
In Earls Court, Marley Hughes, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
London has many iconic sights, the Big Ben, Tower of London, and Westminster Abbey. But floating along a canal during a summer afternoon sounds like Italy, not London. MTN reporter Ronnie Portson takes us to London's Little Venice and its beautiful waterways.
One of the most peaceful and beautiful off-the-beaten-path spots in London is here, an oasis called Little Venice, and you can see why. Built about 200 years ago, the canals were first used to transport industrial items. But today, the business of the waterway is pleasure.
Okay, stay where you are for the moment. I'll get you on board one group at a time.
One way to enjoy the canals is on a boat tour, like this one, aboard the 118-year-old narrow boat called Jason.
What the canals are about these days are people enjoying the canals.
While the tours glide through Little Venice, around the edge of Regent's Park, and past the London Zoo, others choose to stay a while.
This is more or less like a canal boat village these days. All sorts of people live around the canals, different reasons for being here.
Well, there's many boats on the lock here that do operate under a charge. We go to Little Venice, the majority of them. There are also some sort of very, very old school boats that have been here for 25 years, independent business owners that have been here and solely operate on one boat. But it's also nice to make money off doing what you love, and I think that's really important in life. If you can find something that you love and if that can quantify into an income or a wage, it's a blessed situation.
It's also a blessing for tourists looking for a serene taste of London. In Little Venice, Ronnie Portson, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
After a Little Venice canal cruise on a narrowboat, you might find yourself docked at Camden Market. For those looking for something colorful, alternative, and a bit edgy, you'll want to stop and explore. MTN reporter Carly Sutton takes us to Camden.
For adventurous travelers searching for a new and memorable experience in London, you can find it on the Regent's Canal.
Like before coming here, we were like, let's do something different. Okay, let's go to Camden.
On the northern side of London lives an area filled to the brim with multicultural diversity. Food, fashion, music, and more are all located in the 16-acre marketplace.
The market is vast, it goes on and on and on. You can just go for ages and get lost. As long as you've got a few quid, you'll have a good time.
A place where artists, designers, musicians, and those just looking for a good time can easily get to.
For me, Camden is the hub of North London. There's a lot of history steeped in Camden.
In 1972, a timber yard was purchased with the intent of creating a space for artists and musicians to showcase their talent. Legendary performances in the Dingwall Dance Hall included The Clash, The Ramones, and the Sex Pistols.
God save the Queen, my son.
Its popularity quickly grew, becoming the place to go if you were looking for somewhere alternative. That alternative culture lives on today and welcomes everyone to the market.
I believe that everybody could fit in here, if you can say that. Like, you can dress more or less however you want, you could be however you want.
That positive atmosphere is enough to encourage anyone to share their art here, a place where confidence can be contagious.
So for people to have the confidence, they find it in Camden.
Between the retro stores, food vendors, and great music, you'll never be short of a memorable adventure in Camden.
Many people who congregate in Camden don't actually leave Camden, they stay within the confines of Camden. Why? Because it's a multicultural hub of plenty of live music, grassroots music venues, great pubs, great bars, and it's just a fantastic scene with the river here.
With all that entertainment, what more could you ask for? In Camden Market. Carly Sutton, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
Hey everyone, so I'm here in a small little local pub in London, and we're going to see what kind of phrases might differ in Britain as opposed to America. What would you call just French fries? That we would call French fries, what would you call those?
Chips.
Okay, if French fries are chips, then what would you call just like chips, like a bag of chips?
Crisps.
Crisps. Okay, I gotta know, what is a jiggery pokery?
Jiggery pokery?
Yeah.
If you're doing something, and you're doing something what I don't really know about, I go, whoa, you're just doing just a bit of jiggery pokery. Just a bit of jiggery pokery.
That makes sense.
If I'm just about and you go to me, what are you doing? And I go, oh, don't you worry about it. It's just a bit of jiggery pokery. That's what it is.
That's perfect. So what might you call just like kissing someone?
Lucky.
Wait.
I'd say snogging.
Snogging.
Or getting off.
Getting off too?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's not rude, by the way. Getting off with someone is not rude.
Okay, yeah. A little different for us.
Yeah.
My name's Will James, and you're watching Off the Beaten Path, England and Scotland.
For a break from busy London, the beautiful Georgian town of Bath, England is a relaxing change of pace. Writer Jane Austen called it home, and two of her novels are partly set there. And as MTN reporter Emma Bailey shows us, there are plenty of characters to share their stories of the not-so-genteel past.
From its astounding cathedrals, Roman baths, and quaint cafes, the city of Bath is nothing short of picturesque. You may recognize it from the Netflix original Bridgerton, where the show's wonderfully written characters get into some complicated situations.
Stop talking. I shall not have you question the lady's unimpeachable honor again.
But they're not the first to do so, especially in this town.
Yeah, so Jane Austen, of course, resided in Bath for about 4 years. She visited many times. She set 2 of her novels here, and she mentions Bath at least once in all of her novels.
The famed English author, Jane Austen, is known for her enrapturing romances, but they can also take you down a much darker path.
Yes, of course. Yeah, dueling, of course, was a big part of Georgian society. Rifles, they had pistols, of course, but they weren't very accurate, and so often they would miss and hit bystanders. They were outlawed, of course, because people kept dying.
Jane Austen even mentions a renowned dueling lane in one of her novels. You might even wonder, what horrible act would cause someone to conduct a duel?
You could be a lower class individual speaking to you inappropriately, making a comment about someone's wife. Your reputation was at stake, so often you would have to accept the duel.
But not every duel lacked compassion. Just one thing, sobriety.
Gin was very, very cheap, and so everyone was getting absolutely sloshed.
Let's just be thankful that dueling was left in Jane's time. And which of her characters do we have to thank for this world-class dueling info?
So Mr. Wickham, the hero of Pride and Prejudice.
All right, Wickham. You did your best to be persuasive. In Bath, Emma Bailey, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
So what might you call like a liquor store?
An off license or an offie.
What would you call it that?
It's actually because they can open later than pubs used to be able.
Really?
So that they don't have the alcohol license isn't the same.
What would you call maybe just sausage and mashed potatoes that we might call in America? What would you call them here?
Bangers and mash.
Bangers and mash? Okay, so what might you call just rubber boots that you wear on your feet?
You generally wear all boots on your feet, Cameron, if I find, but I'd say wellies, and the reason is because Lord Wellington used to wear long, high boots. So over here they're called wellies after Lord Wellington.
That's really cool. That is really cool. Okay, and then what might you call just a crosswalk?
A zebra crossing.
Okay.
Why? Because it's black and white.
Okay, of course, yeah.
Black and white stripe, so it's a zebra crossing.
Makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have an uncle named Bob, but what does Bob's your uncle mean?
Are you joking, man?
No.
Bob's your uncle's, Fanny's your aunt.
Fanny's your aunt?
Yeah. So, bah! And you go, someone says to you, oh, this is it. And you go, oh, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. And it means that's what it is.
Oh, like a, that's it.
That's what it is.
That's
yeah,
it.
Bob's,
Okay.
Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt.
Okay, Fanny's your aunt
That's
too.
what it is. Yeah, Fanny's your aunt too.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Julia Salis and you're watching Off the Beaten Path, England and Scotland.
Thank you for watching our special edition of Middle Tennessee News. Be sure to check out our webpage at middletennesseenews.net and click on the special reports page for more information. Welcome back to Off the Beaten Path, England and Scotland. I'm Kira Fullington. We're here in Edinburgh, a city full of friendly people and historic sites that catch the eye and the heart. It's a city rich in history with legends and stories. MTN reporter Elise Sandlin has one of those stories for you now about a beautiful woman and a witch as well.
Stories of witches have been passed down through the centuries. The Salem witch trials in particular is a well-known example, but witch accusations in Europe well predate those in America.
Just because of the long history of the British Isles compared to in the United States, you're looking at a much longer time period of targeting witches.
One famous British story, a beautiful young lady who suffered a terrible fate.
She's the prettiest girl in Britain, so there's a queue, right? But not terribly orderly. Right? A lot of pushing and shoving.
After the death of her father and brother, she chose to marry. Though there were plenty of suitors, she chose Archibald Campbell of Skepney, a choice that did not sit well with others.
And one of the people that weren't delighted was the Lord Lion of Scotland. He swore that if he couldn't have the girl, nobody else was going to have the girl.
His petty jealousy drove him to accuse her of an assassination attempt by witchcraft on the king.
She was arrested, tortured, tried, confessed, put in a barrel of tar, and she was brought to ashes because she was the prettiest girl in Britain.
When you look at witch trials, no matter where you're looking at them, you are almost looking at forces of power pushing back against women. I believe in the British Isles, 80 to 90% of people accused of witchcraft were women. And it kind of became a way to target people that people didn't like. Often it was low-income women who were targeted, the rabble that perhaps somebody wanted to get rid of. None of these women were likely witches, and if they were, they certainly didn't deserve to die because they had a different belief.
Just outside Edinburgh Castle in Scotland stands a small shrine in their honor. A small gesture for such a large amount of people put to death in the most unthinkable way. In Edinburgh, Elise Sandlin, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
On the way to the beautiful Scottish Highlands, one may find lush lochs and rolling hills. I got to visit one of those particular hills, and legend has it, one may find the fairies.
In the heart of Scotland, where the lowlands meet the highlands, lies Aberfoyle. This charming little village invites guests to explore local shops and restaurants, offering a taste of Scottish culture. While there, guests may also find themselves immersed in a world of legends and lore. In Aberfoyle, at the top of Doon Hill, in the middle of a clearing, stands an ancient pine tree. That's the site of mystery involving the fairies.
I think a lot of Americans, when they think of fairies, they perhaps think of, Tinkerbell or cute little winged creatures who want to do sweet, nice things for you and are very kind.
Legend has it, in the late 17th century, a minister of the town, Robert Kirk, would frequently climb Doon Hill to visit and study the fairy folk. His obsession led Kirk to write a book revealing their secrets. Probably not a good idea.
No. You want to stay as far away from the Fae as you possibly can. They're not going to do nice things for you.
Perhaps Kirk should have kept his distance. Just before the book was published, Kirk's body was found on Doon Hill, dressed in his nightgown.
In Europe, particularly, the Fae are not cute little winged creatures. In fact, they are terrifying.
So if you visit Aberfoyle and climb Doon Hill to the Minister's Pine, beware that locals say it's a doorway to the Fairy Queen's underground palace where Reverend Kirk's soul remains captive. In Aberfoyle, Kara Fullington, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
I'm back in the pub, so I have some words for you. What might you call just a Band-Aid that you would put on, like a bruise or anything, or a cut?
A plaster. So I started thinking about Band-Aid. I was thinking about Bog Geldof then. A plaster. Plaster.
Why would you call it that? Is there any reason?
There's lots of reasons, Cameron. But it's because because you plaster it on, you stick it on.
Okay, that makes
like
sense.
you would plaster something to the wall.
A bubble and squid?
Bubble and squeak.
Bubble and squeak. That's awesome. That's so cool.
That would be roast potatoes and leftover vegetables. That's bubble and squeak.
So what might you call just passing gas or farting? What would you call that?
A trump.
A trump?
A trump.
A trump.
I'd call it a trump. Because I'm not English, I'd call it a trump.
Why a trump? What does it mean?
A trump means I've just pumped. But a pump is just Just a pump.
Just a pump. Okay. So a pump or a tromp.
My name is Victor Aitken, and you are watching Off the Beaten Path from England and Scotland.
St. Andrews, the home of golf and one of the world's oldest universities. But today we're here covering the Scottish Highland Games. Games and events that Tennesseans are very aware of back home. Historically, many Scottish natives found their way to East Tennessee and the Smoky Mountains and laid claim to a new home. And with that transition came an opportunity to continue their traditions and heritage through their Highland Games.
Highland Games have been in the U.S. for over 100 years. I believe they started in the San Francisco area and up in the New York by the actual Scots. So we've taken those and we've added the clan families, we've added vendors, different things like that to make it a bigger, well-rounded event.
From tourists and family members of the clans, the games bring many festivities and events to the forefront for anyone looking for a mountain of a time. That especially goes for the athletes competing at these events, those who are looking to travel across the world and battle one another.
Got a little tackaroo. I like keeping my contact case. I was a former track and field athlete, and when I needed something else to compete in, I found the Scottish Highland Games. This is my 15th season. I was coming off of a long career of being a professional shot putter, but I've traveled more competing in the Scottish Highland Games than I ever did professional track and field. I've been to Iceland, Scotland, Germany. I've been all over Canada and the United States. I love the heavyweight for distance, the 28-pound heavyweight for distance. But I also really like the caber toss too. That's a fun one and the crowd loves it.
As far as how these crowd favorite games came to be, there's plenty of mythos involved in its start. But no one can be for sure how these Highland Games became what they are today.
Nobody knows for sure, but a lot of those events were derived from how the Scottish prepared for battle.
And they would battle against each other. Sometimes it was for marriage or for land rights, whatever it was. But
if you see somebody picking up a 20-pound stone and throwing that, then they would use that during battle. The big logs that they're trying to toss, which are called cabers, they would throw those up against a castle wall and then they would run up the log to get into the castle.
But to truly understand just how far these games go back, why not take it back to where it all started across the pond?
Obviously records are difficult to find, but one game's Ceres Highland Games, they claim to be over 600 years old.
And while these records may have gotten lost in the mist of time, not much has changed with these games, including incorporating speed and endurance races along with competitive dancing.
Today you'll see 90 metres right through to 3,200 metres. 150 dancers from all over Scotland, and the cycling again, which is handicapped.
The games are for everyone to enjoy, no matter age or ability.
They'll have 7 events: shot put, hammer, weight over the bar and caber.
And what's so special about both Tennessee and Scotland itself when visiting the games on either side of the pond is just how familiar the landscape can be.
When you're getting ready to land there and you can see the countryside, it looks a lot like what we have around here in the Appalachians and the Smoky Mountains.
In St. Andrews, Ryan Martinelich, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
Thank you for watching Off the Beaten Path, England and Scotland. Make sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Middle Tennessee News.
Hi, Ian Grieve here, Secretary of St. Andrews Highland Games, doing a bit of filming here with the guys from Off the Beaten Path, England and Scotland.
And although the great stories of Edinburgh will touch the hearts of all dog lovers and lead tourists to a quiet and hauntingly beautiful cemetery, MTN reporter Cameron Eschenfelder takes us there.
Greyfriars Kirkyard is a historic cemetery in Edinburgh, a peaceful resting place for some of the most important residents of the city, and one of the most beloved. His name was Bobby. His loyalty and devotion remain an inspiration, and he was a dog. This story of a man's best friend has inspired books and films, including a 1961 Disney movie.
Legend has it, the little terrier was the constant companion of John Gray, an Edinburgh policeman who died in 1858 and was buried in the kirkyard. Bobby was so devoted to Gray, he sat by his grave for 14 years until the little dog himself died.
He was the resident dog. You could imagine that, like today, people are dying all the time. Funerals are coming in and people are going out, in, out all the time. And what do they see? They see this little dog lying on his master's grave. You would have to have a heart of stone and not really become moved by such a story.
Did the time gun bring you for your dinner?
He was very long-lived, but he was only long-lived because there was a local merchant called Trail who fed him and looked after him, and so he lived a fairly long life.
But Bobby was in danger because he had no dog license. By now, his story had reached important people like the Lord Provost Chambers.
He's wealthy, and people come to him with a plea about a mutt. Chambers says, yeah, you're right, it's a shame.
The Lord Provost Chambers arranged for the city council to pay Bobby's dog license, saving Bobby from being taken away. He was presented with an inscribed collar and more.
So we'll make him a free man in the city. Now, that is extraordinary. He has got rights, he's got privileges, he's allowed to carry on tending his master's grave for all these years, and eventually he dies. You cannot throw a free man of the city on a junk heap. You have to give him proper burial inside Greyfriars Kirkyard, which, if you look at the list of people that were buried here, all these other notable people are all buried round about him, and Bobby's there. Pride of place.
A statue of Bobby also stands outside the kirkyard, tributes that remind animal lovers everywhere of the special bond between people and their animal companions.
Oh, that's Greyfriars Bobby, sir. He belongs to the city. Have you not heard of him?
In Edinburgh, Cameron Eschenfelder, Middle Tennessee News, Off the Beaten Path.
Thank you for joining us here on Off the Beaten Path, England and Scotland. We hope you've enjoyed this journey along with us.
For more information on our adventurous travels this summer, go to our website at middletennesseenews.net under the Special Reports tab, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Middle Tennessee News. Thanks for watching.